as China steps up its pressure on Taiwan with a series of aggressive exercises and plans to capture it, the US has opened up another front in China's west, Tibet. Over the last 4 years, it has brought in two acts, one more strident than the next, to challenge the notion that Tibet has been part of China since ancient times. How did the US line on Tibet harden over the years? News9 Plus Decodes. From encouraging China to pursue dialogue with the Dalai Lama in 2002 to pushing for negotiated agreements between the two in 2020 to underlining that Dalai Lama's succession is not China's concern. The US has been hardening its position on Tibet over the years. We break down the three acts it has introduced so far to understand how. What is the Tibetan Policy Act 2002? The Tibetan Policy Act, signed into law on September 30, 2002, was one of the first acts the US had introduced. This act encouraged China to pursue dialogue with the Dalai Lama and stressed on greater autonomy for Tibetans in China. The US government had then clarified that it did not maintain any official relations with the Tibetan government in exile in Dharamshala. Fast forward to 2020, another act, the Tibetan Policy and Support Act, was introduced. What is the TPSA Act 2020? Beijing wants to appoint its own Dalai Lama to succeed the current Dalai Lama, who is in his 80s. The TPSA of 2020, however, protects Tibetans' right to select their own leaders. The policy states that the Dalai Lama's succession is a strictly religious issue, and Chinese intrusion could invite heavy economic and visa sanctions from the US. Just 4 years later, the US introduced another act, the Resolve Tibet Act. What is the Resolve Tibet Act 2024? It dismisses Beijing's claim that Tibet has been a part of China since ancient times. Not just this, it authorizes the use of funds to counter Chinese disinformation about Tibet, including disinformation about the history of Tibet, the Tibetan people, and Tibetan institutions, including that of the Dalai Lama. The bipartisan legislation now awaits US President Joe Biden's signature. What are the objectives of these laws? To counter Chinese disinformation and promote dialogue. These laws make the dispute over Tibet's status as official and unresolved. These acts also mandate the US to coordinate for international support for the cause.